Samantala, nagharap na ang dalawang kandidato para sa U.S. presidential election na sina Donald Trump ng Republican Party at Kamala Harris ng Democratic Party. Inilahad ng dalawa ang pagkakaiba ng kanilang mga plataporma. Tila bumabad yata si Trump sa nakaraan habang pangako naman ni Harris na ilapit ang optimismo sa bansa. Narito ang report ni Thomas I. Likeness.
Kamala Harris and Donald Trump shook hands and greeted each other as they took to the stage. Trump said, "Nice to see you." Harris responded by saying, "Let's have a good debate." From there, the encounter became combative. Harris wasted no time in going on the offensive, saying people are going to hear a lot of lies from Trump. And she says his record speaks for itself.
Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess.
Trump retorted that President Joe Biden is the worst president the country has ever had and that Harris is the worst vice president. He then went on to answer questions on the economy, blaming undocumented immigrants for creating high unemployment.
This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics.
Trump continued with this rant with this outlandish claim.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame.
You talk about extreme.
On most issues, Trump evaded questions about what he would do, pivoting instead to his laundry list of grievances and falsehoods. And Harris says that's proof he's not fit to be elected.
And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
At one point during the debate, she told Trump to stop with the continuous lies. When asked about the 2020 election, Trump insists that he won the vote but had been cheated out of it. Harris responded by saying that Trump was fired by 81 million people and he's having a difficult time processing that. She suggested Trump is confused by fact. On foreign policy, Harris says she'll continue to work to end the Israel-Hamas war.
It must end immediately, and the way it will end is we need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out.
Trump insists the war would have never started had he been president, nor would have the Russia-Ukraine conflict. He says if he's elected, he'll have the two wars settled before he's sworn into office. But he offers no details on how he will achieve this. Trump says Harris hates Israel, claiming if she's president, Israel will not exist in 2 years.
She hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party.
Harris says the only way Trump would settle the war between Ukraine and Russia is to give it up to Moscow.
If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now.
She says if he's elected, he'll pander to the dictators that he admires.
The alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of caring about democracy.
When she said world leaders laugh at Trump, he responded by saying Hungarian strongman Viktor Orban told him the most feared person is Trump. Harris says she's bringing a sense of optimism to the campaign instead of always disparaging people, belittling them, and calling them names.
So I think you've heard tonight two very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future, and the other that is focused on the past, and an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us, and we can chart a new way forward.
Trump summed up by saying that Harris has all kinds of proposals, but asks why she hasn't implemented any of them in the past 3 years while she's been vice president. He says if Harris becomes president, World War III will break out. He says America is a nation in decline, a nation that is dying. In 8 weeks, Americans go to the polls to elect a new president. Current polling shows the race in a dead heat. Whether Tuesday's debate will change anyone's mind on whom they will vote for remains to be seen. Thomas I. Likeness from Ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Good evening, Thomas, and thank you for letting us in on what transpired during the U.S. presidential debate. What effect do you think this debate will have on the election? Do you think anyone's mind has been changed?
Presidential debates don't necessarily change voters' minds, but they can transform the dynamics of the race. And we saw that happen back in June when President Joe Biden went up against Trump. Biden's disastrous debate performance led him to actually abandon his campaign, as you recall, on July 21st. Now, that's not going to happen here. Kamala Harris came across strong. She came across positive. And Trump, well, Trump was Trump, full of grievances and how unfair life is. Given his nature, he would never quit the race. But the two candidates are in a dead heat right now, and this contest could come down to tens of thousands of votes in just a handful of states. So even a small shift in public opinion could alter the outcome.
Thomas, many of us here are wondering, what did the candidates do after the debate?
Trump decided to speak with reporters afterwards. He says Harris was weak on foreign policy and immigration issues. He says he was happy with his performance, boasting about it was the best debate he's ever done. Harris and her husband, well, they dropped in on a debate watch party, much to the delight of those who were there. And she told supporters, it's going to be a lot of hard work. Got to get back to work now. You know, they have only 56 days to secure a victory. Both candidates will be spending most of the next 2 months on the road. They'll be focusing on the so-called swing states, trying to entice undecided voters to support them. In such a close race, they can't afford to take any time off.
Thank you so much for your insights, Thomas I. Likeness.